Okay, so let's take a look at this texture in Photoshop. Okay, so here's the texture, and I had a UV layer initially. Now the UV layer came in with the black background that I separated. I'll go over that process once we actually begin texturing the dumpster. But for the time being, we're just going to take a look at all the different layers and the blending effects that it takes to create the texture for the dumpster. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off the UV layer. Alright, so let's just start going down the line here, just turning off some of these layers. Alright, so this is just a label. This is the embossed front grill effect here. Okay. And this is the left label. Here's just a base metal with an overlay for the highlights. And this is soft grain effect. Each one of these is being blended with the layer effect. For example, this one has an overlay, and this one here has a soft green light. And as you can see, here's a base metal layer here that has a soft light effect. If I were to turn that into like normal, you can see it's just a basic texture that I tiled, and I didn't even have to be very clean about it. But I only use it for a certain effect from the texture. The soft light effect was just my own personal preference, but as you can see here with darken, you can come up with a different effect, a different look. Certain things work while other things might not, or you might need to use them differently. Sometimes it's favorable, sometimes it's out of whack. I don't know why I would ever use this, but who knows? Either way, this had a soft light effect, so let me set this back to soft light. Alright, I'll turn that off. Here we have a multiply metal base here. If I turn that on normal, you can just see again it's just a basic metal that had an opacity adjusted, and it's set to multiply. It has a really nice effect to the texture. Turn that off. Alright, so we're left with the embossed lid effect. This was also created in Photoshop with some layer effects. We'll go over that. We have the base, and then we are ultimately left with the light map. Now the light map is going to be covered a little later in the class here, but I will go over showing you how I created this light map for this asset. As you can see, I have two layers for my light map. I have a tendency, like a lot of artists, when I initially bake out my light map or my ambient occlusion map, it might not come out the way I want, so I might do some modifications or editing. So in this case, I simply duplicated it, applying an overlay, intensifying the layering effect. So let me go ahead and I'll just turn all these layers back on. We can just see it all come together. This layer here is particular because you can see it really starts to bring the idea of the dumpster texture together, and that's really because not only does it have a base metal that's blending fairly well with the other textures, but I also have highlights painted on this layer. Highlights are huge when it comes to a texture. It'll otherwise make the difference between your models feeling flat or feeling convincing. And so we'll go over that as well. Whoops, I turned on a grunge layer by mistake. This is a layer that's it has a hard light blend effect to it, and if you were to just see the basic texture, it just has a gray background. The gray allows it to blend very well with any layer style, really. So what was that? Hard light? Let me just find that. There we go. I'll turn that off. The emboss grill. So this emboss effect, again, this was initially just created with a flat gray, okay, and then turned on some drop shadow effects, some inner shadows, and of course the bevel. Without that, it's all flat. But if you were to see, it's just gray. Turn on the bevel effect, and then you blend it. Cool little trick. And we have this label here, and of course a UV layer. Alright, so that is a quick intro to what the texture looks like and a nice little breakdown. We're going to next cover actually building up the texture itself, and we're going to start texturing the dumpster.